All right, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can keep yourself healthy while you're working at home. You know, it just occurred to me that the UCR campus is really spread out all over the place where they have institutions and buildings and things that people are doing. And now that pretty much is all over Southern California since everybody's working at home. Anyway, you might find yourself looking like these folks. By the way, Julie gave me a head nod. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
And you can see my screen?
Yes.
Good. So you might be looking like these folks, trying to find yourself comfortable at home. The first image there, guys, at the dining room table, that's a pretty common place to work. And those are also common postures, which are not ideal. You might start looking for something to get more comfortable after those postures get fatiguing, and you might end up here. And that, as you might guess, is also not a good way to be presenting yourself. So we want to talk about ergonomic setup and how you can do that at home so you can stay comfortable while you're working. The good news is the principles that we want to apply are the same wherever you happen to be working. So there's nothing new here. This is a guide for proper ergonomic setup. I think visuals are really helpful. You kind of want to look like these folks. And the keys here, the key elements are you want to have your back straight. That means your ears, shoulders, and hips are relatively in a straight line. You want your head level, not looking down. So get that monitor up to where you can keep your head up. You want your upper arms hanging relaxed at your torso. You don't want to be lifting the weight of your arms all day. Let them hang relaxed. Keep your elbows bent to about 90 degrees. Keep your wrists neutral, which is a nice straight line through your forearm and wrist. And keep your feet well supported on the floor. So if your feet aren't touching the floor, you get yourself a footrest. All those things apply to standing and seated postures. And specifically to the seated posture, you want to protect your lumbar curve and keep your weight rested fully against the backrest of the chair. If you're not, you're working too hard. We sit, our function goes into flexion. As here, we lose the curve in the low back. We tend to lose the curve in the neck. We end up in this slump posture, which is really fatiguing to the human body. So to avoid that, we want to sit with an open angle. That means that your angle at your hips and torso is greater than 90 degrees. 90-degree angles are at the low end of acceptable. I'd much rather see you have an open angle. Sit deep in the seat. Keep your butt all the way back in that backrest, to the backrest, and keep your weight fully rested there, and give yourself a good lumbar support. And by the way, that backrest should be slightly reclined so you can rest your weight against it. So that would, coming back to sort of an ideal setup, this will be an image that we're going to kind of compare ourselves to. That's the image you want to see when you're sitting around your house. And you can do that in a variety of locations if you know where you're going. So I'm going to show you how I might do it at my dining room table. You can see I've got lousy posture there in the image on the left. And by the way, as we go through these slides, we're going to progress from left to right. The one on the right, I've raised myself up a little bit to give a more open angle and get my arms at a better height relative to the keyboard, but I still have poor posture. Image on the left there, I'm trying to maintain good posture on my own volition, not satisfactory. I'm gonna get very fatigued like that. So instead I wanna sit deep in the seat, get something behind my back to support my curve and keep my weight rested against the backrest. We might make some additional modifications with the addition of a remote keyboard and mouse and get that monitor up, that keyboard monitor, if it's, I mean, that laptop monitor, if that's what you're using, should be up about eye level. And you can't do that with a laptop unless you have remote keyboard and mouse. So that has just created an ideal workstation. Well, maybe not ideal, but close to ideal. And if we compare that to our ideal image, you can see I've got all those essential elements there. So that's what you want to do for yourself. Figure out a way to get there. You can do the same thing on the couch, although I don't recommend working on the couch. But if you are going to spend time on the couch, you'll notice I'm going to get to that same posture. That's not it. We're going to get by using some pillows. So here I've put my butt, pillows behind my back to support my back and give myself a good lumbar support. There's also a pillow on my lap to keep the heat of the laptop off my legs, and that tends to raise the monitor a bit, so it's a little easier to keep my head up. You see what I'm shooting for is, again, to get to that ideal posture. The reason I want to do that is because that's less stressful on your body. You'll last longer, you wear down less. So those are critical things. And movement is super important. We got to get some change of posture. So if you can find a way to create a standing workstation somewhere in your house, that's what you want to do. Note on the image on the left, my hands are low, and again, the monitor's low. So on the image on the right, I've used a box and some books to get things where I need them. And that's what you want to try and do.
Thank you, Clyde.
You're welcome.